to Designs by Diane. Today we're going to work on a rail fence quilt block to make this quilt behind me. We want to work on our seam widths and just getting comfortable with sewing and coming out with squared up blocks and then assembling the quilt top. Come along and let's get busy quilting. Okay, first let's talk about the tools we're going to need today. We're going to need something to sew this material together with. So we need our sewing machine or serger, but I prefer sewing machine most of the time. You're going to need straight pins, scissors, seam rippers, because you are going to have to rip some things out from time to time. We need our material, and we'll go over that in further detail in a moment. We need a pattern. Now this is the rail fence pattern. It's very, very simple. You make the blocks and then you turn them in different directions to come up with the pattern. So it is very, very simple. It is a good beginner project. When the blocks are turned, you do not have to match up any seams, so it's a very simple block and very user-friendly. We're going to need tape measures to measure long spans once our quilt starts getting good size. We need clamps, and I will show you what I use these for later, but I like to clamp things down when I pin them so that I know that everything is clamped, is pinned evenly. We're going to need good sewing thread. We do not want anything that's going to break and tear up on us and not give us a quality product. We need marking utensils. This is a pen that I found. You can put different colors of chalk in it so that you can mark on different colors of fabric, and I got this just at the fabric store, so it's easy to find and it's very good. You have all kinds of different colors of chalk you can use. A good rotary cutter, be sure to keep the end on it to protect it. This one has the end automatically on it. It comes out to cover the blade. If you bang your blade up, it will not cut a good seam, and you will have areas of your cloth that do not come apart, and we don't want to deal with that. We will need rulers, and I have my large 15-inch ruler here, makes them square. And then I have a smaller square for cutting up smaller things. We have a good cutting mat here, and we're ready to go. Now let's talk about the fabric we're going to use for this quilt. We want good 100% cotton fabric. We want to purchase enough of each color that we need. There is no more than a yard of any of these that's used in this quilt behind me. If you have scraps, that's good to use the scraps up for this. I use this green on the framework around the center part just because it matched so well with the green in this other blue material. Use scraps up. A lot of your scraps, you'll have enough for this type of quilt, and you can use them up in it. But I like to have a center of the quilt and then frame it with a narrow frame of a darker material. Then have a light border that you can really enjoy quilting in and show off your quilting. And then another dark section that your binding will go on, and that really sets the quilt off. Get enough of your material. Make sure it does not have stains, holes, tears, dry rot, any of that in it. And it's in good quality. If you want to wash it prior to this, do so and have it ready. I do not pre-wash my material. If it needs ironing, I will iron it so that I can get good cuts when I use my rotary cutter. But other than that, I do not do anything else to the material beforehand. The block that we're going to work on today, the rail fence block, is one block made out of 4 strips. Now we're going to cut our material in strips and then sew them together and then cut the block the width that it is in the other direction. And we're going to try for our 1/4 inch seam, but if it's a little off, we can adjust it in that way. Now this block is right here. You've got 4 strips. Here's the same block, only it's turned on its side. You've got the same 4 strips. For this quilt, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6. So we need 30 of these blocks. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is to construct the blocks. Now let's get our fabric prepared so that we can cut our strips. I'm going to take this bolt of fabric, and I don't want to deal with a whole bolt of fabric. So I'm going to take about a yard of it, and I'm going to cut right here, just enough into it so that I can tear it. That gives me a pretty even edge. And we can get rid of that and get it out of our way. We want to have just enough that we can work with it, but have enough room that we can get enough strips out of it. Now I'm going to take it and lay it where the selvages are straight across here. Then I'm going to bring the bottom up and make sure it is even with the selvages. Now this side may not come out as straight. It is on this one, but it may come out where it's uneven. We're going to cut off a little bit and make sure it is squared up. I'm going to take my square and line up the bottom with one of the lines on the square to where all four edges are sticking out a little bit, and then I'm going to cut this off, and I know I've got a squared edge on this edge. And my cutter doesn't want to cut today. Now on this pattern, I made 2.5-inch strips, and I need 6 2.5-inch strips for the blocks to make this quilt. So 2.5 times 6 is 15, and I have a 15-inch square, so I'm not going to move my square. I'm just going to turn around over here and cut on the other side. And then I'm going to come back a little bit, and I have a dull blade here. We don't want a dull blade. Then I want to come and I'll slide my square back to the 12.5, because 12.5 is 2.5 less than 15. So I'm going to come down by 2.5-inch segments and cut, and that way I don't have to handle my material any more than I have to. You want to make sure the line at the bottom is even, and the 12.5 mark is over here. We'll cut one strip, then we're going to back it off 2.5 inches more, which is 10. So we go to the 10 line, make sure that bottom is straight, cut again. Come back 2.5 inches again. You're at 7.5 now, and you learn these amounts. The more you do it, the more you get used to it, and you learn which number comes next. Come back to the 5. That's the next one. Keep it even at the bottom and even on the side. Then our last line is the 2.5, because we want the 2.5-inch square, so that will be the last one. And we have all of our squares, all of our strips cut. Now, I take them while they're still sitting here, and I pull the top section, which is the folded section, out of the way. Just gently, don't dislodge them. Pull the bottom out of the way. Then I set my square back on the strips, lining up the edge, just enough to cut off these selvages up here, and then I know that all the selvages are gone. So we have just cut all the blue strips we need for this quilt.